Hello and welcome to Tyrannus Gaming. The following video exists solely to explain status effects and status damage, so that new and returning players can better understand game mechanics. The following will also allow more experienced players to brush up on possible changes to game mechanics that may have taken place over the last 12 years. Thank you for watching, and let's begin. What is an impact damage? Are you looking to rearrange your target's organs without penetrating them? Then impact damage is the toxic femininity you've been dreaming of. Impact damage is one of three basic damage types in Warframe, represented by a little hammer icon. What is an impact proc? An impact proc is known as stagger and lasts for 6 seconds, which you'd think would be just enough to be humiliating, but if you retain enough momentum, you'll last longer than your target as each new impact proc gives, well, it caps out at 5 and anything afterward will refresh the first timer. Translated, this means that, if you last longer, your target will likely give up the ghost before you're finished. Death by snoo snoo. Wait, hold on, wrong script. What can we use stagger for? Enemy warframes, ospreys, and bosses are immune to stagger. However, Eximus units are able to become 80% more vulnerable to Parazon Mercy kills after 5 stacks of stagger after their overguard drops. However, Corpus units, like the debt slaves they are, become 100% vulnerable to mercy kills after they make the mistake of dropping their guard around you. What mods augment impact damage, you might ask? Well, mods dedicated to impact damage is the primary mod Internal Bleeding, the shotgun mod Magnetic Welt, the secondary mod Hemorrhage, and the melee mod Shattering Impact. You can also find an arcane called Primary Exhilarate, which restores energy when impact's knockback effect is applied to a target. Here's a fun fact: upon being killed while under the stagger effect, the targets will become ragdolled, thus proving that upward mobility exists. I'd make some bad puns out of this description, but I'm afraid I've already made enough of an impact on you all. What is the effect impact damage has on railjacks? Impact procs on railjack guns are known as concuss and last for 5 seconds. Not only will it refresh with sustained fire, it also reduces enemy aim and damage output over its duration. Just because you can't penetrate or breach its armor through spalling, doesn't mean you can't rattle the crew around until the vehicle is soft-killed. What is puncture damage? Are you looking to penetrate your target without rearranging their organs? Then puncture damage is the toxic masculinity you've been dreaming of. Puncture damage is one of the 3 basic damage types in Warframe, represented by a little needle and thread icon. What is a puncture proc? Serenade the target and make them weak in the knees with puncture status effect, known as weakness. Weakness increases your direct fire critical chance by 25% and reduces enemy damage to you by up to 80%. What are the uses for weakness? Weaken should work on all enemies in the game as of this upload. Interesting detail, but any foe slain by weakened will have bloody holes where he is struck. Want to know what else is holy? Any kettle of water after you boil the hell out of it. What mods augment puncture damage? I'm unaware of any non-damage mods dedicated to puncture. However, there is an arcane for puncture known as Melee Dotty. Dofty? Donut. It looks like a donut, it's going to be called Melee Donut, which increases critical damage in proportion to your melee weapon's puncture status effect. This means higher punctures deal more damage. Here's a fun fact. Interesting detail, but any phone slayed by... Well, I guess you already know the joke that's about to come, because I decided to copy and paste instead of editing properly. This is why I'm doing this for free and not getting paid for it. What is the effect of puncture damage on railjacks? Puncture procs on railjack guns are known as decompress and last for 20 seconds. Not only does it stack multiplicatively, it stacks. It reduces the target's armor and shields over its duration. When you can't rattle the crew or puncture the armor, sometimes a sustained barrage on the enemy armor can encourage spalling or force total armor failure like an autocannon against a main battle tank. This is why literacy pays off, kids. Stay in school and actually pay attention. Now let's talk about slash damage. What is slash damage? Do you enjoy cosplaying as Wednesday and watching Dexter on repeat? then slash damage is the toxic persona you've been dreaming of. Bleed damage is one of 3 basic damage types in Warframe, represented by a little swooshing crescent moon icon. What is a slash proc? A slash proc is a cinematic damage type known as bleed, and lasts for an edgy 6 seconds. Bleed will do 35% of your damage per second. Slash has more game than you, as it is unaffected by the target's resistances, while bleed itself bypasses enemy armor entirely. And just like your local furry convention's level of collective depression, there is no maximum limitations on bleed procs. What are the uses for bleed? For those of you wondering why bleed isn't doing damage, it's because it is entirely unaffected by elemental mods. What are the uses for bleed? For those of you wondering why bleed isn't doing damage, it's because it is entirely unaffected by elemental mods, requiring pure damage, faction, or status damage mods to increase its damage output, effectively making it perfect for critical builds. Interesting detail, but claws, dual daggers, nikanas, rapiers, scythes, tonfas, warfans, and whips have forced bleed procs upon heavy attacks regardless of stance mods. What mods augment slash damage? Mods dedicated to slash damage is the set mod Hunter Command, and the melee mod Relentless Combination. I'm unaware of any non-damage arcanes dedicated to slash though. Here's a fun fact. Upon being killed while under the bleed effect, the target will bleed profusely from the exposed area that was struck, while robotic targets will shoot out oil. I had some jokes prepared, but this essay took hours upon hours of rewrites and I'm bloody exhausted. What is the effect of slash damage on railjacks? Slash procs on railjack guns are known as tear. The target ship will take 7.5% damage for 20 seconds. The effect stacks multiplicatively. Your foes never leave their front doors open. However, if they didn't want their back door violated, then why is it so exposed? Safety is an illusion, so rip and tear.
Cold, the air and water flowing hard, the land we call our home. Push to keep the dark from coming, feel the weight of what we owe. This, the song of sons and daughters, hide the heart of who we are, making peace to build a future, strong, united, working till we fall. The air and water flowing hard, the land we call our home. Push to keep the dark